Diego says, "Hey Mike, I'm learning Spanish, but I really struggle with understanding native speakers speaking in fast sentences where the words sound combined." Yeah, it's connected speech. It happens the same to Spanish speakers learning English. That's why listening comprehension is difficult. It's one of the most difficult things. What do you recommend to train my ear? A couple of things. If the problem is that and not the vocabulary, so if you know the vocabulary already, then great. It could be that you don't know enough words. I don't know, but because I don't know you and I haven't heard your Spanish, but it could be that uh, it's often the case that you haven't learned enough words. The problem often is that if you learn the most common words, you know 80% of the words in a text or in any kind of content. So that's more or less right. But you know the common stuff, but you need a lot of the less frequent stuff to understand the context really well because it's especially verbs, especially more advanced verbs because they're everywhere. If you are if you're listening to the news, for example, you will hear a lot of verbs that you don't learn until advanced stages because that's advanced vocabulary and you don't we don't do that in the beginner or intermediate stages. That's how language schools and books work. But if you and those are key words to understand if you're listening to a podcast or news or any kind of native speaker content, you will need all those verbs. So focus on learning. Again, I don't know if this is your case. Maybe you do know all these, uh, all these verbs, especially verbs. If you know the verbs, you will learn everything else pretty easily. But the verbs are the key to understand more advanced audio. That said, maybe this is not your case. Maybe you know all that vocabulary. So, like you say here, I'm saying this because sometimes some people think they know all the vocab, and then if you look into it much with in detail, then they realize that okay, I actually don't didn't know all those words. This is why I recommend taking the transcripts of the stuff that you're listening to and putting them in a vocabulary frequency list calculator, and then you see all the vocab there on a list, and you'll probably find a bunch of words, some of the least frequent words that show up once or twice in that transcript. You'll probably find a bunch of them that you didn't know. Not saying that's the case. Maybe you know everything there, but that's often the case. So I had to mention it. But if your vocabulary is great, and that's not a problem at all. Let's say you've been reading lots of books, and you probably have very rich vocab, but you can't understand native speakers speaking fast, connected speech. Okay, if that's really the problem, and more often than not, the problem is a combination of both: lack of vocab and connected speech and listening comprehension. But if just listening comprehension is the problem, this is what I recommend. Two different types of exercises: one, shadowing, and two, listening to just more listening to difficult stuff. But if you just listen to difficult stuff, yeah, you will improve. If you learn vocab and you listen to difficult stuff a lot, again, podcasts where people talk fast, anything like that, any kind of talk show, eventually you'll end up understanding most of it. But if you really want to speed things up, combine it with shadowing. Lots of sentences, not only your language islands, but lots and lots of sentences using all kinds of grammar, all kinds of advanced structures, all kinds of verbs that you wouldn't normally use in conversation. Basically, the long lists I've got, the mass sentences. And you shadow those with the 5x in the 5x format. So each sentence you shadow it 5 times. So you listen and repeat the same sentence 5 times, this next sentence 5 times. Use those audio files. So and it should be fast. Yeah, slowing it down, like this comment here that says, use something to slow down loop audio snippets, slow it down till you can hear the separation, and then speed it up. Language reactor, if you use YouTube. I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing. Although maybe if you're like a complete beginner, it can be helpful. But I what I would recommend is just what take the sentences, sorry, and normal speed, and 5 times each you shadow them. And the first one's going to be very difficult. Second time you'll get you'll understand more, and you'll get small details of, oh, that's actually how they pronounce that word, and oh, that's how those two words sound when you combine them and you're next to each other. The second rep with the same sentence, it will be eye-opening, and third, fourth, you'll say it better and better, so your own speaking will improve as well. But your comprehension of the language will improve, because with each rep with the same sentence, you'll notice more and more small details. And then the next sentence and the next sentence. And your ability to distinguish those words in context and in connected speech and fast will improve very quickly if you do this. So, long story short, three things. Keep learning vocab. Even if your vocab is good, even if you're C1 level, keep learning vocab always, especially advanced verbs. They're really important for native speaker content, to understand native speaker content, and then listen to more native speaker content, and lots of shadowing to train your ear for comprehension. And that's it.